Hello, good day, everybody. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. What you are going to witness today from Fanvil is really a focus on our remote working solutions with our Fanvil IP phones. What this really is more of a deeper dive on some of the challenges that one has to face when deploying our solutions, not only in the corporate office, which we do very well, but also into remote locations, whether it be a remote office or very often what has grown quite a bit over the last few months, if not over the last couple of years, is actually having two places of work, which is actually establishing a home office. So please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tommy Lee. I basically run the business of Fanvil for North America, and I just want to sort of let you know that I'll be running this show. Attached for your reference in the handouts is 3 attachments. What you'll notice in your handouts page is we have a soft copy of this presentation, so there's no need to make any notes. In addition to that, I've also included a soft copy of our general brochure, which has an outline of all the different solutions that Fanvil provides to the global marketplace. Thirdly, I also have my business card. For those of you who are aware, we will be giving out prizes today, and that business card will be pretty handy for you in order to sort of send me your contact information should you be the winner. I'll go ahead and talk about the rules later on. Some housekeeping rules. I would suggest that you perhaps open your question box. If you have any questions, by all means, go ahead and enter your questions according to the slide set. At the end of the presentation, I will have a Q&A session that I will go back to the questions that are asked and provide answers to those questions that are done. But in addition, you will also use the question window as an opportunity for you to sort of provide your input into the questions I ask so that you can ultimately win a prize. Okay, with that said, let's move on to the show. As I mentioned earlier, and what you may have suspected from some of the banners, we'll be giving away 2 X6U prizes. One will be done at the middle of this presentation, and what will be done at the end of the presentation as well. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and here's how we end up playing the rules. I'm going to have each participant in this webinar put in the word XU in the question box, okay? And I'm going to ask you to do that, not too early, but after I state the question. And what happens is I'm going to select the first person who puts in the XU and allow that person to be able to answer the question. If that person doesn't answer the question, say within the first 10 seconds, then I'm going to move on to person 2 and person 3, etc. So, that's how we're going to end up playing. And so the question box may be handy. You may want to have that open, but I will go ahead and give you a good heads up as to how we're going to proceed as we move forward. Okay. Part of the agenda, what I'm going to do today is why choose Fanvil for an IP phone at the home office. As you all know, we probably have gotten, or a lot of corporations have learned that working from the home office is a viable alternative. This is possibly true over the last couple of weeks, if not even after the last couple of decades, where people have found 2 places to work, either for family flexibility, if not more, to improve productivity in the office. There are really 2 separate environments that we're going to go ahead that poses a challenge to deploying voice communication systems at the home office. One is the environmental challenge, of which we actually go ahead and things that we are used to deploying things in the office. Lots of things in the office are not necessarily available at the home office, and I want to highlight how the Fanvil solutions actually provide that gap and actually address that gap very easily for our voice communication providers. So it's a really deeper dive into those specific features outside of the overall feature sets of all the different new phones that we're introducing into the marketplace. Concluding also with a question and answer session. At the very beginning, before I go back, I want to take a step back and devote 1 or 2 slides to talk about Fanvil. we are a global distributor of all SIP IP endpoints. That's going to include a lot of IP phones, a lot of endpoints that are all SIP based. Those who don't know what SIP means, it's Session Initiation Protocol, which is really a global standard that provides a standard that allows full compatibility between the endpoint and a lot of the voice-based PBXs that are switched out there. So although you see there, I wouldn't pay much attention to the dots. That just basically shows you that we are globally deployed, but our worldwide headquarters is based in Shenzhen, China. That's what I wanted to get across here. And we actually have technological, and we also provide our solutions through channel partners that are located throughout the world, in America, Europe, China, Asia, EMEA, etc. Moving to the next page, and before I focus in on the endpoints, I want to give one overall slide on the solutions that Fanvil provides to the marketplace. It's really divided into 4 segments. One is the one I'll be talking about mostly today, which is the enterprise IP phones, and we come in a lot of different flavors that we're really proud of to really introduce to you in the marketplace. We make selection for you very simple and also very easy, so that the idea of deploying our solutions, not only in the office, but also to make the choices very simple for you. Other segments that we actually address in the phone place is actually hospitality phones. So outside of this discussion, we also have phones that we actually design that has solid state screens that enable you to address the hospitality space very, very specifically. We have phones that can fit in auxiliary rooms, as well as the main desk phones that fit into hospitality. For number 3, we have SIP security products, and they range from a whole set of door entry products in addition to intercoms, both including with video, without video, with dial keypads or basic intercom sections, even multicast PA system adapters as well. All of these endpoints kind of tie in and really enable the voice communication provider to be able to allow their technology to touch the endpoint, which is the end user. Tying all of these technologies together, we have something called Fanvil Device Management System, which is FDMS. What this piece of software does is enable our integrators and the people who install our solution to be able to really deploy a standardized template into our phones or into a lot of these auxiliary SIP devices that allow for quick deployment. You can actually cascade different levels of partnerships within the system, and it gives you the capability to also manage your deployments from one central location. Complementing this 4th segment here is another piece that we call FDPS, which is really nothing more than a redirection server, which enables out-of-the-box provisioning. This is especially true when it comes to deploying our IP phones. And what that does is it enables the integrator to be able to provide a customized product, or the integrated service provider to say, oh no, this phone belongs to us and it should be provisioned with a custom template given their specific logo or specific BLF key configuration all in one spot. So all of these tools are available for the end user to be able to make deployment very simple. Now let's talk about in a more simple environment where how do we go ahead and deploy these endpoints in a home environment system. As we know very well, a lot of the systems that I'll be talking about is the XU series. The XU series contains 4 primary units, the X3, 4, 5, and 6. It's actually 5 units. But complementing the bulk of the XU series, which we just basically rolled out to the marketplace early in 2020, we also have other X series phones that actually address a far bigger need beyond what the primary commercial products that are divided here. Take the X210. The X210 has 3 display screens that are all integrated onto one platform. This is also very similar to the 3 display screens that are available on our X6U. We're going to be giving out 2 of these units away in this webinar itself. Now, one of the unique things about the X210 is the ability to afford a lot of keys. Now, many individuals, the way they work, many of them may afford to see a lot of the keys right up front, And not only do you see the keys up front, but there are also 3 pages located right here, which gives the end user the ability to page in 3 separate pages of, in essence, 2 sidecars that are all integrated into one, giving you full visibility into many of the BLFs, speed dial keys, or whatever action URLs that you may want to assign to have this phone displayed. One level lower from this is the X6U. To give you an idea, this provides 2 screens down here just for DSS keys and provides you with 5 separate screens that enables the end user to not only see a lot of the screens up front, but be able to go into 5 separate pages. And I'm going to talk a little bit more into that. For those that are seeking a much larger screen, you'll notice that we have the X7 and the X7C. The X7, which is located right here, is really our touchscreen phone. This touchscreen phone enables those people who want to appreciate a much larger screen, but be able to have these keys in a touchscreen environment that are capable of going ahead and touching the screen. Now, with touchscreens, I found out through many years selling telecom equipment, you either love it or you hate it. The good news is that Fanvil addresses both sides of the equation, so that if you don't like touchscreens, then you can go ahead and merge into a button version. And we call this button version an X7C. What the X7C is, the C stands for a little bit more of a compact screen, because we had to make additional rooms to fit the side keys that you see here that were normally on screen here. So in essence, both of the phones are very similar, but they address 2 separate segments if you want a big screen to couple with your voice deployment. One of the things I want to announce in advance that looks very much like this X7C is our Android phone. We're going to have an X7A that will be rolling out very shortly, which is our new Android phone. So keep your eyes into our newsletters, and you'll be able to keep abreast about some of our new product developments in all those different segments. Now let's talk about the XU series. The XU series, I like to divide this unit up into 3 separate families within the XU. And one of the reasons why we think this is really key is several ideas. Is that all of the XU series, you don't even have to think whether or not which ones support PoE, which ones has color, which ones has black and white, which has BLF keys, which ones don't, which has GigE, which one don't. The fact is, all of this phones in this series support GigE, all of them support color screens, and all of them have different levels of integration features. So if you're looking for really an entry-level model screen, the X3U should be more than enough in what you have to work with in many environments, that all they're looking for is dial tone. This provides a great level of value to you, but one of the unique ideas is, if you notice on all of these XU series, we did an enhancement by adding side line keys on the side of each of these different displays. And if you notice, what is the main enhancement? If you find a lot of the IP phones that have been deployed, you'll notice that many of these keys are integrated with your BLF keys, as you would see here. And what happens is, when you cascade more calls that are coming in at the same time, the calls end up butting into the call or the function keys. And what you end up having is, the more calls you handle, the less keys that you actually see up front. So Fanvil did something very unique by dividing these keys. On the X6U, we have more here with a larger display, but even on our lowest basic level environment, we have 3 keys here that you can go ahead and actually align line keys, so that if 2 calls come in, you can tactically handle these calls here and not disturb where your lines, where your speed dials keys come from elsewhere. So that's a pretty nice design moving forward. One of the nice things about the X6U is that, before I talk about the X6U, when we move up into the midline, the X4U, 5U is really where we introduce our multi-key sets available here. The 5U actually beats out the 4U in that it actually contains integrated Bluetooth. And how does that end up helping the end user? Well, in cases where they want to use a headset, or perhaps even integrating this phone with your smartphone. You know, I'll even talk a little bit more about that in the future, but what you can do is that the higher level you go in terms of the models, the more level of integration. If you don't need integrated Bluetooth, then what you could do is maybe settle for the X4U, which contains a USB port, giving you the option of being able to support Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connectivity, which is supported from the 4, 5, as well as the 6. Obviously, in the 5, we have 2 separate colors based upon, if you have a red color applications for emergency applications, then we have an option for you to go. Now, on our top of the line X6U, which is what we're giving away today, we add all those features. Plus, in addition, we doubled the window size here on the side, giving the end user twice the amount of upfront window space here, so that not only do you get this, but you also get 5 pages of these BLF keys that you can actually do up front without having any disturbance of your line keys on a separate window. Of course, you could always reprogram these line keys onto these keys any which way you want, but on top of that, the X6U, we also support the H264 video codec, which means that this unit actually has a video codec integrated into it. As I showed you on the previous slide, this phone can actually integrate not only to our video door key monitors, but also to external IP cameras, giving you the capability of being able to see video on these screens. And you can assign these things based on any of these keys to assign a video camera. Now, one of the experiments I've always wanted to try is I have a home IP camera at home, you could just program these keys onto these cameras so I can see my front yard or my backyard automatically with one of these phones. But not only can you do that at home, you could also do that in the office environment to enhance security. Speaking of the X6U, one of the things that we are depicting here is that not only can this page button here gives you the capability of being able to page through, and one thing that's not shown here is that different levels of users that you assign here, you can see them either in green, yellow, or red, which is a great idea of being able to virtually be in the office when you're in your home office. Now, the fantastic thing about this is that not only does it have 60 remote keys, but here are the separate line keys, and you can support different SIP lines, and this gives you up to 5 separate keys where you can tactically manage your calls and also control where all your BLFs are located on the side. The reason why we like this design, because a lot of the upgrades that people do from either an old Nortel or an old Panasonic type system is that they're used to having these keys so that it minimizes the amount of behavioral change that people have to encounter when moving forward. Now, one of the great things about the home environment is that it supports Wi-Fi applications. Why is this really important? Well, in the home environment, in the office environment, everybody typically has an Ethernet port that people hook into with their phone environment. And chances are it even contains power. Well, unfortunately, in most people's homes, the router is typically located in the family room, and most times people like to work away from the family room to give themselves some noise isolation as well as some isolation from, but what that does is it takes you away from power. It also takes you away from Ethernet connection, from a hard Ethernet connection. So that's why Wi-Fi adaptability is actually supported on both the X4, X5, and X6U. And I'm going to show you how those integrate into the Wi-Fi environment in future slides. Now let's talk about enhancements. Now, very often when people talk about, outputting these new phones and providing great value to the user, what Fanvil has done is really done the opposite end and actually upgraded the audio performance. A lot of people put HD on the actual handsets, but this is how we've done it. We've actually incorporated Harman speakers into the actual phone itself. And why is that really important? Well, the reason being is that, as I mentioned earlier, not only can you incorporate headsets onto this, but you could also incorporate your smartphone. Everybody on this call, I'm sure, has a smartphone of either Android or an iOS environment. And what you can do is that for those who are lucky enough to have Bluetooth in their vehicle, this phone operates the same way. So that if you were to receive a phone call on your mobile phone, you could actually pair Bluetooth onto the X5 and X6 so that when you get a call on your smartphone, you could also have a great sounding speakerphone that'll serve as your smartphone adapter. So you have this great environment where if you use that as a separate line, you could use a smartphone as a separate line on this phone. And when I mean that, I'll even push it further. You could also declare a line on this phone so that you can actually dial keys on the actual phone and usually use your smartphone as a separate line. So in addition to the PBXs that you have deployed in your corporate environment, you can actually incorporate one of these lines as a separate line for your smartphone, so you have full integration, giving you the maximum flexibility as well as high audio sound within the home environment. And this gives you a great capability of being able to provide audio conference calls and everything working from a remote location. Now let's talk about some of the adaptability. Now, when people work from home, I know especially over the last few weeks in the United States, everybody was working from home. And one of the things I found out was that the bandwidth of internet was really slowed down. It really felt like as though it was the holiday season or Christmas season where everybody was shopping online. And that's the type of experience I experienced at home. Now, the good news is that most of our phones have Opus codec. And for those who don't have Opus codec, that gives the phone the capability to dynamically allocate for low bandwidth situations. Everybody is pretty much rest assured to have great bandwidth when they go into work, but when you devote this phone as well as your PBX in the home environment and it supports Opus codec, now the phone could actually have full voice in both low bandwidth environment and have high fidelity in high bandwidth environment as well. So it's really a dynamic phone that allows the businesses to be able to provide to their remote employees in both low end as well as high end bandwidth environments to support good voice. If you don't have some of this and you're short on bandwidth, what you will get is really stuttering voice, which is what a lot of people hear when they're battling for bandwidth on the actual internet device itself. Now let's pose a challenge question number one, okay? Let's have a little bit of fun. What I'm going to do is, I've seen some people gone ahead and try to put it in advance, but I'm going to wait for them to enter after I answer the question. So what I'm going to do is, you should be ready to put the XU, and once I finish asking the question, then I will select the first one to enter the XU in the very beginning, and then you can go ahead and I'll select that person. I'll identify who you are, and then you can go ahead and do that. So question number one is, name the two models that actually contain 3 displays on the phone. Okay, Craig McDonald is the actual winner of the first draw. Now you're going to have 10 questions to ask, Craig, and I want you to answer the question, which are the two models of XU series and the X or the X phones that actually have the 3 displays? Ah, very good. You're really on the key. You're right. It's the X6U as well as the X210. So what I'm going to do is ask you to send me your contact information to my email, and I'll make sure that I'll have a sample sent to you. Thank you very much for participating. But for those who don't win, you're going to have another chance to win at the end of this presentation. So please, by all means, hang on. Listen through this brief overview, and maybe you'll have a chance. Sorry, Craig, you can't enter twice, so you have to allow somebody else to win. Now, one of the biggest challenges in choosing the Fanvil phone is being able to support power. Now, in most work environments, the power actually comes from the Ethernet port that you actually connect right here, right onto Ethernet cable. At home, most people don't have a PoE switch, but they do have power outlets. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind when ordering our phones is that our phones don't come stocked with a power supply. And you're going to have to reach out to our resellers and distribution channels to ask them, considering what phones you want to buy, and then associate that with the associated power brick that you want to plug into the back of the phone, so that when you couple this power brick along with our Wi-Fi adapter, you'll be able to really connect to your work environment in any room within the house that has a power adapter. So that gives you a lot of flexibility to work, and also gives you the flexibility to see where other people are within your work environment. Now let's talk about Wi-Fi. The great news about Wi-Fi is that Fanvil sells a Wi-Fi adapter, which is nothing more than a USB dongle. The home units that actually have dongles in them is the X4, X5, and X6 models, as well as all of the X7s, as well as the X210s, all have USB adapters, and all of them could really adapt to this Wi-Fi dongle. Now, Fanvil did one more step in being able to put together a really nice video. You can get the URL right here that whatever works on the X210 will likely work on all of the XU models as well. And when you plug it in, it gives your phone the wireless adaptability into your corporate environment. And we're going to give you all the reasons why this is so important in being able to adapt, to your home environment in this way. One of the things I mentioned earlier is that it has to be very, very easy. The actual part of the Wi-Fi dongle is WF20, and you may want to speak to a reseller or a distributor about this. And you'll need a power supply. You'll need to talk to our channel supply about not having a PoE switch, which means power over Ethernet. If you don't have this type of equipment and all you have is a wall adapter, just go ahead and use our power supply. Now in search for Wi-Fi network, this really can be broken up into 3 steps. And these are just nothing more than screen clips of the video that I showed you in the previous slide. So once you plug in the adapter, you're going to get a prompt that actually tells you that a wireless LAN adapter has been discovered. And then once you do that, it will go ahead and show on the actual screen all the SSIDs or the Wi-Fi names that go through, and you can actually select the one that you want to connect to that's associated with your home environment, and you enter your password. Here is one key point that you want to enter in your password. If your password is really alphanumeric, which means it just contains letters and numbers, then it's very easy. You can enter that through the keyboard of the phone. The real tricky part is many people like to insert characters like ampersand sign, percentage signs. Those things are a little bit more difficult to enter on the keyboard, and I would perhaps suggest you reach out to your IT person or the person who installs your phone and work with them to try to integrate this password into your password environment. But once you end up doing a successful connection, you'll end up seeing this Wi-Fi connectivity on the upper right-hand corner of the phone. So if many of you know how to connect a Wi-Fi adapter to your smartphone, it's almost the same way to this phone, but it's a little integrated if you don't have an alphanumeric example for a password. This is an example of an alphanumeric password where it says Open Sesame 321. There's no specific characters like this because it's far more difficult to do that over the screen. If you can't do that over the keyboard, then you're going to have to go to the internal network of the phone just by putting your IP address on the browser, and then you can get to the internals. I don't want to get too deep into it, but for those who have any questions, feel free to ask us. We'd be more than happy to help you out in that scenario. Now let's talk about Bluetooth. One of the great things about Bluetooth that's shown here is that the knee-jerk reaction is everybody supports Bluetooth headset, which is great. This gives you the ability to support a remote headset, but one of the great ideas is being able to support a remote smartphone as well. And as I mentioned earlier, the great news is being able to have wireless connectivity to your Wi-Fi so that once you show up right next to your phone, your smartphone will automatically hook into your desk set, and it'll actually behave as one. And you can connect it or disconnect it just based on a couple of clicks, depending on what you want to do. So it goes well beyond in connecting your Wi-Fi connectivity. One of the most useful things I found about the USB connector, quite frankly, is to recharge my phone, which is one of the nice sideline benefits that I tend to do. Okay, now the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper about the tools that we provide to integrators and service providers. One of the things I mentioned earlier was FDMS, and what this tool enables providers to do is to be able to network separate customers or separate groups of phones that they can remotely manage from one. This is just one example of an asterisk environment, but many other environments use this type of thing that spreads across our X, XU, and XS series. But we could also use it to integrate our door phones as well. But just talking about phones, what this does is it gives the integrator the ability to be able to program all of the different keys that you see on the side, as well as being able to support specific accounts for a specific phone and MAC address, and you can develop templates for different groups of phones and deploy these templates accordingly. This actually makes home deployment very, very simple for those who want to manage phone deployment. You give a person a phone at home, all they would have to do is, in essence, connect to their network, and if everything works out right, the phone should just power on, and they should be able to be virtually at work and contain a lot of those environments. Now, if you don't want to have an FMDS environment, what you can do is that many other PBXs, 3CX is one of them, but there are many other environments that actually have the provisioning services located in the actual hosted switch or on-prem switch themselves that actually deploy. So these things actually work without redirection service in the background, and then the actual administrator can actually program the user what their passwords are going to be, and then they can just deploy this, at home if they want to do that, and then the home user just has to plug it in and be able to have the remote, situation powered up automatically. So let's go ahead and talk in, and just because one deploys these things at work, what you'll have is being able to have not only see BLF connections, but you will actually be able to connect to corporate phone books, be able to actually connect to separate VLAN connections, have different CPIs depending on what type of interfaces that we may support and what kind of PBXs and type of firmware management you have to deploy. So all of these things are manageable from a remote and central location, from a central environment into the remote location. Now, security is always a major deal, especially when speaking at home. And for those who want encryption that takes one step above and beyond what SIP provides, all of our phones support OpenVPN. And what OpenVPN does is it provides a secure tunnel that enables you to connect your phone into a very secure environment. So say, for example, if you're a bank employee or perhaps a hospital employee that needs to connect phones at work and at home, then you're likely going to have a secure environment and may need a secure OpenVPN that integrates onto our phone and attaches you to your environment in a secure way that enables secure encryption for voice encryption from any location you want to do. Speaking of environments, beyond, these are a lot of the different things. This is an actual moving target, which we actually have all of these different PBXs. We're also in conjunction and cooperate with a lot of the headset manufacturers here that's also capable of working with our phone. You can go to their website and see a lot of the compatibility that works with our phones as well. And you can also check in with a lot of these boxes that actually have full compatibility with the Fanvil phones. Now let's talk about the final question, number 2, okay? Same rules as before, and what I will do is look at, for those who actually input the XU environment right after I ask the question. And so the second question I will ask is the following. Which phone model cannot support Wi-Fi connectivity? Okay, very good. Paul Fileo, you're the first one that actually answers that in the thing. So, very good. you beat me to it. So Paul, please go ahead and send me your contact information to my email address. You can actually download my card on the handouts of the sheet, and we'll be able to set you up and get something going. Okay. So pretty much that's kind of an overview of what we have in terms of the home environment. If there are other questions that you would like to go ahead and address that I haven't addressed in this session, please, by all means, put that in the question mark. And I'm just going to go back to some of the original questions that you have accordingly. Now, let me see if there's anything. Okay. One question asked, using FDMS, can you push OpenVPN keys and certs to remote phones? That's a pretty good question. I don't know that specific one. So for John, what I will do is I will log that question in on my thing. And actually, hopefully you included your email on that. I don't know the answer to that. And what I'll do is ask our product management team to see if whether or not you can push those keys as well as certifications to our phones accordingly. That's kind of it for now. Does anybody else have any specific questions that they want to throw out? Going once, going twice. Do they work in any country? Yeah, I mean, so far, anybody who has an OpenVPN client at headquarters, they can do an OpenVPN on our phones as well. So that's really the answer on both ends. So you have to have, in essence, a master-slave type of relationship. But if it's supported on both ends, it's really an open source type of VPN that works very effectively. Must you use a VPN? At least the VPN that comes connected with our phones. Many other companies actually use an auxiliary VPN that you may have to secure that VPN to the connection to your house, which you may invite a separate box to your network. But what's included with the phone itself is an open VPN client. So that's what comes with the phone. But by all means, the phone will work within a VPN client that's outside of OpenVPN, but you're going to have to make changes to your network accordingly. Okay, great. Well, anyhow, if you have any further questions, feel free to give me a call or send any inquiries to sales@fanvil.com. I know I mentioned earlier that I support the North American market, but by all means, we support globally. And if you don't want to address me, I'll make sure that I can answer your questions. If not, please send your inquiries to sales@fanvil.com. Again, I want to thank you very much for your time, and any questions, feel free to give us a call. Thank you for your time. Take care. Bye-bye.